Tomorrow, an alarm will tell you when to wake. A screen will tell you when to eat, when to meet, when to leave. You live your whole life by the minute. 8:47, 12:15, quarter past 3. It feels like time itself, fixed, exact, real. But for almost all of human history, no one knew what time it was. Not the hour, not the minute, not even close. And here's the stranger part. They didn't need to. The clock that runs your life is one of the newest things in it. Go back a few hundred years. There is no clock on the wall, no watch on your wrist. So how do you know when to do anything? You look up. The sun is your clock. It rises, you wake. It sets, you sleep. When it sits highest in the sky, it is midday. That's it. That's the precision. Morning, noon, evening, night. Time was a thing you felt, not a thing you read. A farmer didn't start work at 7. He started at first light. He didn't break for lunch at noon sharp. He ate when he was hungry and the sun was high. There was no 8:47. The very idea would have made no sense to him. Time belonged to the sky, not to a machine. Of course, people did try to measure it. With shadows, a stick in the ground became a sundial. As the sun moved, the shadow crept around it. They built bowls that dripped water at a steady rate. They burned candles marked with even lines. They turned glass bulbs of falling sand. But every one of these had a flaw. A sundial is useless on a cloudy day or at night. A candle burns out, water freezes. None of them agreed with each other. Time was a rough guess, not a fixed fact. And then people tried to carve up the day in a way that would baffle you completely. The church needed a schedule. Monks had to pray at set moments, day and night. They had names for them, matins, vespers, compline. So they split the daylight into 12 hours, and the night into 12 more. Simple enough until you think about it. Because the amount of daylight changes. Summer days are long, winter days are short. But each was still cut into 12 hours. So a summer hour was long, and a winter hour was short. The hour itself stretched and shrank with the seasons. An hour was not a fixed amount of time at all. Try scheduling a meeting in that world. You couldn't, and no one tried. So how did a whole village know the time? It listened. From the church or the monastery came a sound. Bells. Bells rang to call the monks to prayer. And the entire town set its day by them. Time to wake, time to work, time to rest. You didn't check the time. You heard it. Your day was shaped by a bell you did not control, ringing from a tower for reasons that were not yours. And then a machine changed everything. Sometime in the 1200s in Europe, the first mechanical clocks appeared. Not to sell time, to organize prayer. They were built in monasteries and towers. Heavy, iron, driven by falling weights. At first, they had no face and no hands. They simply rang a bell automatically on the hour. One of the first clear mentions comes from the poet Dante in the year 1319. A wheel of a clock, he wrote, turning and chiming. Through the 1300s, these clocks spread across Europe. From the monastery to the town square. The clock tower became a symbol of a city's pride. And the moment time left the church, it changed its nature completely. Because a machine doesn't care about the seasons. It ticks at the same rate all year round. So the hour stopped stretching. It became fixed, 60 minutes, always. The elastic hour of the sun was dead. And one group fell in love with this new rigid time. Merchants. In the growing towns, they hired workers by the hour. And now the hour could finally be counted. Measured, bought, sold. For the first time, your time had a price. An hour of your life worth so many coins. The clock didn't just tell the time, it turned time into money. The same idea you still live under today was born on a merchant's wall 700 years ago. But even now, one wild thing remained. Every town still kept its own time. Noon was simply when the sun was highest, right there where you happened to be standing. So no one in one city was a few minutes off from the city down the road. Every town its own little clock, and it didn't matter. Because no one could travel fast enough to notice. A day on horseback blurred the difference away. And then came the railway. Suddenly, you could cross the country in hours. And every station kept a different time. A single train line might pass through dozens of them. A timetable became almost impossible to write. Which clock was even the right one? Worse, it was dangerous. Trains running on mismatched time shared the same tracks, and sometimes they collided. So the railways did what no king ever had. In England in 1840, one railway forced a single time onto its whole line. They called it simply railway time. Then in America, on November 18, 1883, the railroads imposed standard time on the entire nation. They drew lines across the map and carved the country into time zones. At noon that day, clocks in each zone were reset at once. People called it the Day of Two Noons. Time itself was reset by decree. Not by a government, by train companies. The next year, the world's nations met in Washington and agreed on a single global grid of time. The time on your phone right now was drawn up to stop trains from crashing. And there was one last step, the factory. The factory needed everyone in at the same moment. So it put a clock at the gate, and beside it, a machine to stamp your card. You clocked in, you clocked out. Your hours punched onto paper became your pay. The clock was no longer just on the wall. It was watching you, counting you. And finally, it moved onto your own body. A watch on the wrist, a phone in the pocket. Always with you, always ticking, always watching. Which brings us to you. Time has moved from the sky to the church bell, to the town square, to the factory gate, and onto your wrist. You were taught the clock simply measures the day. It doesn't. It quietly governs it. No one is saying smash the clocks. They built the modern world on time. But once the day belonged to the sun, it rose and it set, and that was enough. And it is worth remembering that it ever did.